Respected chair, panelists, participants, ladies and gentlemen, namaste, good evening, good afternoon, and good morning to everyone watching us right now from different part of the world. Welcome to the joint webinar hosted by Center for Diplomacy and Development and Nepal Migrants Unity Network. This webinar is supported by nepaldubai.com, Kitab Yatra, DC Nepal, and risemedia.com. It is my privilege to be the moderator of this webinar. I, Shrishti Konda, on behalf of CDD, would like to extend a warm welcome to the respected panelists as well as all the participants. Now, let me give a brief introduction of Center of Diplomacy and Development. CDD is a think tank under Track II Diplomacy, which was established in February 2018 for undertaking several activities like holding seminars, workshops, hosting talk programs, undertaking research studies, creating forums, contributing to promote mutual research studies, um, and between foreign communities as well as Nepali community. Today's webinar is yet another important program hosted by CDD and supported by several institutions. The topic of today's webinar is Foreign Direct Investment in Nepal, Challenges and Prospectus. Today, we have with us very distinguished personalities as panelists. We thank them for their time. Before we start this webinar, I would like to mention a few rules and code of conduct to be followed. Our speakers can mute or unmute themselves whenever they wish to speak, share the slide or record the live webinar. Speakers will be given 15 minutes for the presentation. We will not take any questions in between the presentation. However, we will take a few questions at the end of the session. All the participants' mic will be muted so that question should be put forward in the Zoom chat box or in the comment section of our Facebook Live. Please keep your questions short, precise, and relevant to the topic. Long and irrelevant questions will be clubbed. Now, may I invite Chair Mr. Mohan Krishna Shrestha, former Ambassador of Nepal to France and founder president of CDD, to give his welcome remarks. Floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, moderator Srishti, distinguished panelists, audience at home and abroad, friends and well-wishers, ladies and gentlemen, namaste, good evening and good morning. First of all, on behalf of the Center for Diplomacy and Development, I wish to extend my cordial thanks and appreciation for your kind attendance at this webinar. It is another attempt of CDD to host a webinar on such important issues of foreign direct investment, its challenges and prospects. CDD has invited 4 distinguished panelists for the occasion. We are indeed grateful to the panelists. In particular, we thank the Department of Industry for nominating a very senior and experienced director level official for today. We will hear many cited information on the FDI from him and as well as from other panelists. They will express their knowledge on the FDI issues from Nepal's point of view as well as from international perspective. The point of these all combined would be beneficial for us to enrich our knowledge about the FDI status in Nepal. Dear audience, in fact, it has been 26 long years that our government has been implementing economic diplomacy. It is a part of ongoing efforts for accelerating the pace of economic progress in the country. The FDI is an important objective of economic diplomacy. The FDI has matured as a top priority in our country. Billions of rupees have come as FDI and economic activities through FDI has created thousands of jobs in the country. Question is how far we are doing in this field. It is going on according to the passage of time or lagging behind. It is quite understandable that the FDI is of great importance to Nepal and to other countries, even for developed and resource-rich countries. The FDI has become important. It becomes so when local and domestic resources are not enough to oil the pace of economic development. Take, for example, a well-developed and rich country like France, which is number 2 country for FDI imports after USA. The exchange of capital and technology and ideas are important to every country irrespective of their stages of economic development. It pains us to note that despite such importance, FDI import is rather slow and not enough in our country. Policy-wise, our FDI provisions are not that bad while compared to other countries, but a question invariably arises why our country is so much lagging behind in attracting FDI. Few billion rupees of FDI, even from dozens of countries, doesn't mean that we have become fully capable of attracting FDI from the world. There are problems to be known, sorted out, and remedied. On other instance, I remember while in Paris during my work, Cambodian ambassador Kishore used to tell me that Cambodia, slightly bigger than Nepal in geographical size, but population one third of Nepal, used to get the FDI about just 8 billion annually. He further said it is not enough and they must exert more efforts to lower FDI in even bigger proportion. Similarly, one small sleeping country, Lao Republic has also made tremendous changes in their policies to attract FDI. There is absolutely no need to mention about Vietnam in terms of FDI import. One more example is related to a novel idea. One evening at a reception in November 2011, I met one French gentleman. He introduced to me presenting a name card in which he used the title of Korean Investment Ambassador to France. I was puzzled to find such an ambassador and asked him, what does it mean and what is the scope of ambassadorship? He told me that Korea has entrusted him with the duties of promoting French FDI into Korea. He is not paid any salary, but once he is capable of promoting FDI, he would be rewarded. It was the first time I came into contact with an ambassador whose sole duty was to promote French FDI to Korea. Next day, I wrote to the Minister of Foreign Affairs about it and suggested to adopt this novel idea as government has barely anything to spend. But in our country, new ideas hardly get air from any dignitaries. Ours is a bureaucracy marred in laws and its slow implementation aspects. Just making laws is not enough. Actually, effective implementation are needed to bring good results. In my opinion, besides making good laws, their effective implementation is the need of the day to attract the FDI. Dear audience, I hold the view that there is no dearth of investment capital and technical know-how around the world. Only thing what is needed is a skill to tap or lower those more or less every country aspiring to attract the FDI must have enacted same type of laws for smart countries, take care of the feelings of the investors, avoid unnecessary hassles and lengthy bureaucratic entanglements. Investors must be given a rousing welcome and make them very important person because they come with their capital and know-how. Human feelings count a lot. Visa is yet another important factor. Visa issues nags a lot, especially to foreigners. Investors and their families must be given easy access to visa issues. More on several aspects of FDI, you will be hearing from our experts, including those practices in the foreign countries from our panelists. With these few words, I once again thank and appreciate all of you for your attendance at this webinar. My special thanks are due to all the panelists. Thank you for involvement.
And as such, may I introduce our first panelist, Mr. Suresh Shrestha, Director of Foreign Direct Investment Division of the Development of Industry. Mr. Shrestha is a mechanical engineer by profession. He holds an MBA degree from Looms and an MS degree in energy management from Comsats University. Mr. Shrestha has a 23-year-long experience in civil service. He has served under different ministries in different sectors, including a 3-year deputation in SARC Energy Center, Islamabad in the capacity of research fellow in transport, energy and environment. Since last 1 year, Mr. Shrestha has been heading the Foreign Investment and Technology Transfer Unit as the director of the unit in the Department of Industry. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Srishti. Uh, well, on behalf of Department of Industry, I'm going to show my slide to you with the introduction of Department of Industry along with the status of foreign investment in Nepal. So let me share my slide first. Uh, I hope you can see my slide now, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. First, let me introduce Department of Industry first. Department of Industry is the department under Ministry of Industry, Commerce and Supplies, and Department of Industry is majorly responsible for the administration and regulation of industry. And today, as I'm speaking on behalf of foreign investment, the major part, one of the very important activities of Department of Industry is foreign investment approval. So, in the context of Nepal, there are two major agencies to approve foreign investment in Nepal. One is Investment Board of Nepal, and another one is Department of Industry. And we have got this threshold. If the investment is more than 6 billion Nepali rupees, then it is under the jurisdiction of IBN, and the investment below 6 billion Nepali rupees is taken care of by Department of Industry, right? And along with foreign investment approval, then the industry registration, and we also approved the technology transfer agreement, and repatriation of the earnings by the investors is also taken care of by the Department of Industry. And along with that, we also have we also offer the services of visa recommendation, which includes business visa and non-tourist visa as well. And another very important activities that Department of Industry does is the approval of environmental studies. Okay, so let me first take you to the status of foreign investment in Nepal. So the slide that I'm showing here is the data of Department of Industry only. So it doesn't cover the data of IBN. So if you look at the status of the foreign investment, then we can see that there is almost like 400 billion Nepali rupees as the foreign investment commitment. Here, I reiterate that it is the commitment by the investors, not the realization. The realization, if we look at the commitment and the realization, then there is a bit disappointing, factor there. So if you look at this data, then we see that there is almost 400 billion Nepali rupees of investment commitment, and the major chunk of this investment is in the energy sector, right? So, and it is then followed by tourism sector and the service sector. You can see the pie chart where it says that it's the energy-based industries or energy-based project which has got the the highest chunk of foreign investment, followed by tourism and service. And in manufacturing sector, it is 15%, 12 to 15% in manufacturing sector. Now, next is, if you look at the number of projects in foreign investment, then we see that in terms of number of projects, then it is the service sector that leads the foreign investment, followed by tourism. Okay, so this is the scenario of foreign investment in terms of what kind of sectors that the foreign investments actually come in, right? Moving to the next, then if we look at this investment country-wise, then we see that almost 50% of the investment is from China, followed by India, which covers only 25%. Okay, so this is how it looks like. This is based on the data that Department of Industry has. So the leading country in terms of foreign investment is China for the moment, right? Now, just giving you the overview of the process, the investing process. Then it's a very simple process in terms of the steps that we have in approving the foreign investments. So there's simply application process where it has to be the application has to be submitted with the documents, like there has to be a certain project proposal, and then you have to have your identification. So there are not many documents that are required for the approval of the investment. So you have to have the application registered at the Department of Industry. then it says that we generally get it done within 7 days of the application that is registered at the Department of Industry. Then after the investment is approved, the next step that the investors have to get into is to get the company registered at OCR. So once the company is registered, then he or the investor goes for tax registration, and that will be again followed by industry registration at the Department of Industry. So after the industry registration, there are then number of processes that have to be undertaken by the investor. For example, there might be the need for environmental examination study that has to be done before you commission your project. So these are the steps that you have to undergo in terms of getting the industry registered and commissioned in foreign investment. So there are certain favorable factors that I would like to highlight here. These are the positives that we have. Why one should invest in Nepal. So there are certain favorable, positive factors that we have, and we can. So one of the things that we always talk about is it's the location that we are strategically located between two emerging large economies, China and India. That is the plus point that we have in terms of being where we are located. And we have this double taxation avoidance agreement with 11 countries and BIPA with six countries. And even now, if we look at the human resource, then we have well-educated, competent human resources as well. That is another positive factor we see. And the policy we have for foreign investment, the policy that we have is the foreign investment is treated as national investment. So there is no any discrimination between national and foreign investment. So that is the national treatment that we give to the foreign investors. And the foreign investor can own land in Nepal. The foreign investment, the company with the foreign investment can own land. So that is one of the favorable conditions that we have. And there is no a foreign investor can invest in solely 100% foreign investment in most of the industries, with the exception of certain industries like airlines and telecommunication, where there has to be joint ventured with Nepali partner. So there are certain sectors where foreign investment cannot be 100%. And yes, I already talked about educated human resource that we have, and labor is also considered cheap here. And another favorable or conducive condition for investor is the visa facility that we provide. We provide visa facilities to the foreign investors and also to the expatriates or the experts that come to work for the industry. And repatriation has now been simplified. It's a very simplified process now. The earnings that you make here, you repatriate to your country, and the process now is more simplified as compared to what we used to have earlier. And if you look at the doing business index from the World Bank report, then we stand 94th rank among 190 countries. And there has also been a lot of policy reforms in the area of foreign investment. Now we have promulgated this FITA 2019, and we used to have a very, very small act before this act got promulgated. And we also now have Industrial Enterprise Act 2020, and FITA is also now followed by the regulation. And we are in the process of getting new this Industrial Property Act as well. And one of the very important step that government of Nepal has taken is this commencement of one-stop service center at Department of Industry. Okay, so what One Stop Service Center does is, it we this is the philosophy of having all the stakeholders and all the relevant agencies which are related to the foreign investment or the investment at large. They are housed at one place. So at the Department of Industry, we have one-step service center where there are representation from the Department of Industry. Then we have the representation from the OCR. We have representation from the Immigration Department. So these are different representations that one step service center has, and which is actually divided into now 8 units. And these 8 units together offer service to the investors from one window policy. So that is what we do. This is one of the very important step that the government has taken on. But it has been 2 years that we actually started this one-step service center at Department of Industry, but still there are lots of things which have to be improved, and the effectiveness has not been realized as it has been expected to. So this needs to be reformed, or has to be improved a lot. Just trying to highlight a number of things which FITA 2090 has. So it has got no upper limit of foreign investment. We do not have cap on the investment. We do have threshold, which is 5 crore Nepali rupees. So you have to invest minimum, each investor has to invest at least 5 crore Nepali rupees. That is the minimum threshold that we have, but we do not have the upper limit, or we do not have cap for the investment. And the regulation under FITA, it now delineates, or it has the definite time scheduling for bringing in the committed amount, the committed investment. And it says that, foreign investment has to be brought through a proper banking channel. So it also ensures industrial safety. It facilitates land acquisition. And as I said, there is no discriminatory treatment for foreign investors. Non-nationalization is there. And the FITA also has a very prominent grievance handling mechanism. So if there is any grievance or any dispute among the investors, then there are certain procedures which the Act delineates. And the Act also talks about the online application and processing. In course of implementing this, Department of Industry has now initiated the automation of the process. This is in the process. We have already started the process of automating the process, and this has not been concluded, but we are under the process of this. So these are all positives that we have actually brought about as the reform steps, but there are a number of issues as well. For example, when we look at the definition of technology transfer in the FITA, then it's sort of ambiguous in its own. It does not differentiate clearly what is technology transfer and what is service import. So that is where there is a blurred area, and that is one of the things that comes as an obstacle when we are working there. Another issue is the investment threshold. As I said, there is a minimum threshold of 5 crore rupees. It used to be like 50 lakhs earlier. 5 crore rupees is, now there is a voice from the investors that, 5 crore rupees is too much for certain industries. For example, there are industries which are related to software companies, software industries, or there are industries like restaurants and hotel businesses. They also have, come up with the voice that, this threshold has to be lowered down. So that is another issue that we have. And the cap on royalty payment is another issue. So there is a cap on royalty payment. So if you undergo any technology transfer agreement with the foreign partner, then there is a cap on the royalty that you are you can pay to the foreign partner. So there is, you cannot pay, for example, more than 5% of your revenues. 5% of your sales is the cap that we have as per the regulation of the PITA. So that is also issue for some of the industries, like it's too low for foreign investors to bring the technologies, for example, the trademarks and their brand names and the franchises. They sometimes decline to transfer their trademarks and all, just because of this gap that we have under our act. And one of the things that is very disappointing in the sense is that there is a huge gap between the commitment of investment and the realization of the investment. So there are a number of reasons for this gap, but still, it says that if when we coordinate with Nepal Rashtra Bank, then it looks like there is only 30% of the investment being realized. So that is one issue that is there. Visa facility versus investment schedule. So our the act says that whenever there is an investment from an investor, then he is eligible for getting the business visa. Okay, so but what happens is they do not bring the committed amount, only the partial amount is paid as their capital. But even when they do not bring in the full committed amount, but they have brought their industry into operations, then at that point of time, what happens is we cannot stop giving them or recommending for their visa. So that is one issue that we have. And there is also a little bit of uh, problem in NRN Act and PITA. NRN Act also talks about foreign investment from NRN, and which is not included in PITA. So that is where sometimes problem comes in. Recording of all investments is another issue. So earlier, what happened is, the investors, they have brought their investment into Nepal and have brought they just have their industries operated already. But what happens is now their investment amount is not recorded at Nepal Rashtra Bank, because of which he cannot take away his earnings, and the investor cannot even sell his share and repatriate the proceeds of the shares. He transfers to somebody else. So that is the problem that we have again. And OSSC, one-stop service center, that is what I already talked about. The effectiveness is still not realized fully. And another missing part is our country does not have this credit rating, so that investors, they do not have any ground. So the investor, what they do is they always look for the comparative advantage and the security of their investments, but we do not have the credit rating done to showcase to the investors, probable investors. And one of the things that we have not done fully is we have not marketed Nepal to the foreign investors. In fact, we do have certain, we did have, the investment summits for a couple of times, and we do have certain, interactions with the foreign investors, but, still we have not done too much of, adequately, we have not done the promotions adequately. So that is one thing that is also one of the issues that I see as having worked on the Department of Industry for a year now. So this is what I have to share with you for a time being. So if there are any questions later on, I would be happy to take the questions later and answer as far as time allows, or it is possible to answer your questions. So for now, I stop here, and we'll take the questions later, as Ms. Shrestha said. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, sir. It was quite informative. Continuing, may I present short introduction of our next panelist, Mr. Prakash Pun, Chairman of Hong Kong Nepalese Business Association. Mr. Pun comes from Magdi district. He is a top top-notch businessman and currently is settled in Hong Kong. He holds chairmanship of several businesses, companies in various business activities, which are in Nepal, Hong Kong, and Macau. List is indeed long and diversified. Besides, he is also involved in several social organizations in several capacities and contributing for the socio-economic development in Magdi and in other parts of our country. Earlier, Mr. Pun has served as a treasurer of Non-Resident Nepali Association, and currently, besides his business responsibilities, Mr. Pun has chairmanship of Hong Kong
express my experience in the place, because we are all Nepalese in the panels now at the moment. I think I would prefer to talk in the Nepalese language. That can be clear more everyone, right? म के भन्न चाहन्छु भने नि ल भर्खरै सुरेशीले जुन प्रेजेन्टेसन दिनुभयो अब एक्ज्याक्टली त्यसैसँग रिलेटेड हो एफडीआई नेपालमा चाहिँ एफडीआई जुन हिसाबले सोचेर जुन खालको प्रेजेन्टेसनहरू हामीले बनाइराखेको छौँ र जुन इन्भेस्टमेन्ट समिटमा प्रेजेन्ट गरिराखेको छ नेपाल सरकारले त्यसमा म फर्स्ट एन्ड सेकेन्ड दुईटै इन्भेस्टमेन्ट समिटमा हङकङ नेपाल बिजनेस एसोसिएसनको तर्फबाट रिप्रेजेन्ट भएर म आएको थिएँ आउँदै गर्दा मैले बुझेको र भोगेको कुराहरू म पहिला सेयर गर्न चाहन्छु यो एफडीआईको बारेमा नेपाल सरकारले जुन किसिमको प्रोग्रामहरू अर्गनाइज गर्यो इन्भेस्टमेन्ट समिट इट वाज सो एट्र्याक्टिभ तर मैले बुझ्दै गर्दा जुन इन्भेस्टमेन्ट बोर्ड अफ नेपालले जुन प्रेजेन्ट गरेको जुन डकुमेन्टेसन छ र त्यो डकुमेन्टेसनको आधारबाट जुन किसिमको कमिटमेन्टहरू फरेन इन्भेस्टरले गर्यो र एमओयू पनि साइन भयो हामी विटनेस हौँ तर त्यो चाहिँ इम्प्लिमेन्ट हुन सकेन किन भन्दा मेरै साथीहरू पनि मसँगै गएको इन्भेस्टरहरू थियो अनि उहाँहरूले त्यो प्रेजेन्टेसन सुनेर दे वर सो एक्साइटेड तर एट द एन्ड अफ द डे के भयो त्यो प्रोजेक्टहरू जुन थियो भनिएको थियो डिस्प्ले गरिएको थियो त्यो चाहिँ रियलिस्टिकली त्यो चाहिँ लाइफमा थिएन पाएन नपाएको कारणले गर्दा त्यो एमओयू साइन गरेको एमओयूमै सीमित भयो किन भन्दा फरेन इन्भेस्टरले पहिला गभर्मेन्टलाई विश्वास गरेर एमओयू साइन गर्यो पछि उनीहरू फिजिकली आफ्नो त्यो ग्राउन्डमा गएर हेरेर के हो त रियालिटी भन्दा उहाँहरूले चाहिँ नेगेटिभ भेटायो त्यहाँ नेगेटिभ पाए किन भन्दा रिसर्च अनि प्रपर प्लानिङ नगरिकन त्यो प्रोजेक्ट बनाएको कारणले गर्दा फरेन इन्भेस्टरहरू स्पेसली म हङकङमा हुँदै गर्दा चाइनिज इन्भेस्टरहरू नै नेपालको मोस्ट पोटेन्सियल इन्भेस्टर हो उहाँहरू त्यहाँ आउँदै गर्दा एम्बेसीको थ्रुबाट होस् कन्सुलेटको थ्रुबाट होस् आइपुग्दै गर्दा त्यहाँ आएर समस्या प्रेजेन्टेसनबाट जुन देखिएको थियो त्यो रियालिटीमा पाएनौँ त्यसपछि त्यो प्रोजेक्ट अगाडि बढ्न सकेन त्यो एउटा एकदम ब्याड इम्प्याक्ट परिरहेको छ हाम्रो नेपालको अर्को चाहिँ सरकार पक्षकै लाइनमा पनि सरकार पक्षले जस्तै पोलिटिकल पार्टीहरूले त्यो पोलिटिकल अनस्टेबिलिटी भएको कारणले गर्दाखेरि एउटा पार्टीले गरेको डिसिजन अर्को पार्टीले फेरि प्रोजेक्ट एडप्ट गरिरहेछ अर्को पार्टी आउने बित्तिकै त्यसले चाहिँ डिफल्ट गरिदिन्छ फेरि त्यो प्रोजेक्टलाई त्यो गर्दै गर्दाखेरि यो फरेन डाइरेक्ट इन्भेस्टमेन्टमा चाहिँ नेपालको पोलिटिकल अनस्टेबिलिटीले ठुलो ह्याम्पर पुऱ्याइरहेछ त्यसले गर्दाखेरि पनि हामीले सेन्टर फर के अरे हाम्रो सिडीले यसलाई चाहिँ मध्यनजर गरेर हामीले एउटा टिम फर्म गरेर लोकली एज अ प्रेसराइज ग्रुप बनाएर हामीले गभर्मेन्टलाई पनि प्रेसर दिनुपर्ने हुन्छ अर्को चाहिँ रिसर्च एन्ड प्लानिङ हो सरकारले चाहिँ इन्भेस्टमेन्ट बोर्ड बनाएको छ र प्लस अहिले सुरेशी भएको डिपार्टमेन्ट मिनिस्ट्री अफ इन्डस्ट्री डिपार्टमेन्ट इन्डस्ट्री छ डिपार्टमेन्ट इन्डस्ट्रीले पनि जे जति प्रोजेक्टहरू चाहिँ लाइभ प्रोजेक्ट छ नेपालमा गर्न सकिने इन्भेस्ट गर्न सक्ने फरेन डाइरेक्ट इन्भेस्टरले इन्भेस्ट गर्न सक्ने ठाउँ जुन छ त्यो चाहिँ बरु सानो होस् एकदम फ्याक्ट डिटेल सर्वे गरेर डिटेल प्रोजेक्ट रिपोर्ट बनाएर त्यसलाई बिजनेस प्लानमा डाइभर्ट गरेर अनि एम्बेसीको थ्रुबाट होस्, कन्सुलेटको थ्रुबाट होस्, अथवा हामी अर्गनाइजेसनको थ्रुबाट होस्, हामीलाई त्यो चिजहरू इन्फर्मेसन पायो भने हामीले विदेशमा बसेर हामीले रोल खेल्ने भनेको भोलिन्टियर एम्बेसडरको रोल खेल्न सक्छौँ हामीहरू। र यहाँबाट हामीले कन्भिन्स गर्ने क्रममा चाहिँ विशेष गरेर यो इन्भेस्टमेन्टकै कुरामा भन्दाखेरि अहिलेसम्म मैले बुझ्दै गर्दा चाइनिज इन्भेस्टरहरू बेसिकली एकदम नजिक भएको भएर चाइना इन्ट्रेस्टेड छ, उनीहरूसँग टेक्नोलोजी छ, उनीहरूसँग फन्ड छ। तर प्रब्लम कहाँ छ, जब उनीहरू नेपाल आउँदै गर्दा लोकल पार्टनर भनेर जुन बनाइएको छ टर्म्स, त्यो लोकल पार्टनरबाट धेरैले धोका खाएको छ। र कतिपय चाइनिज साथीहरू त्यो ओभरसिज कम्पनी भनेर आउँछ, त्यो टेन्डरमा इन्ट्री गर्छ, प्री क्वालिफाइड हुन्छ, टेन्डर पनि जित्छ, पछि त्यो लोकल पार्टनरसँग कुराकानी गरेर उनीहरूको बिचको सम्झौता अनुसार चाहिँ त्यो कमिसन लिएर उसको पाउने पाउडर जति हो त्यो पाउडर लिएर ऊ फर्किन्छ। अनि नेपालमा बस्ने जुन कन्ट्र्याक्टर छ त्यो कन्ट्र्याक्टरले सक्ने भए त किन विदेशी कन्ट्र्याक्टरलाई त्यो टेन्डर हाल्ने बनाएको? विदेशी कन्ट्र्याक्टरलाई त दिनै नपाउनु पर्ने। यदि नेपालको कन्ट्र्याक्टरले सक्ने भए त गर्दै गरेर विदेशी कन्ट्र्याक्टर भनेर प्रोजेक्ट दियो, प्रोजेक्ट दिँदै गर्दा त्यो प्रोजेक्ट चाहिँ उसले त्यो कमिसन लिएर ऊ गयो। जाने भन्दा पनि नेपालकै कन्ट्र्याक्टरले उसको आफ्नो के छ, के हुन्छ भित्रको खेलहरू हामीलाई थाहा हुँदैन। तर उसले चाहिँ त्यो फरेन कन्ट्र्याक्टरलाई चाहिँ पैसा दिएर पठाइदिन्छ कि फर्काइदिन्छ। फर्काइदिइसकेपछि नेपालको कन्ट्र्याक्टरले त्यो काम गर्न सक्दैन। काम गर्न नसकेपछि त्यो सबै कुरा डिले हुँदै जान्छ, क्वालिटी हुँदैन। किन भन्दा एउटा सिम्पली नेपालको चाहिँ प्रोक्युरमेन्ट एक्ट ठिक नभएको भएर सबभन्दा मेजर प्रब्लम त्यहाँ हो। नेपालको जति पनि यो कन्ट्र्याक्ट फरेन कन्ट्र्याक्ट जुन छ त्यो फरेन कन्ट्र्याक्ट चाहिँ बेसिकली नेपालको प्रोक्युरमेन्ट एक्ट लोएस्ट बिडरलाई दिने भन्ने जुन कन्डिसन छ, म्याक्सिमम 30% भनेर भनिरहेछ, त्यो कन्डिसनले गर्दा हाम्रो नेपालमा आउने फरेन इन्भेस्टरहरू पनि त्यसैबाट फ्रस्ट्रेट भएर बाहिर निस्केको छ। उनीहरू बेसिकली चाइनाको हङबाट हुँदै गर्दा चाइनाको साथीहरू, धेरै साथीहरू कन्स्ट्रक्सनमा आएको छ, एनर्जीमा पनि आएको छ। कति साथीहरू त्यसरी उनीहरू चाहिँ फ्रस्ट्रेट हुँदै गर्ने क्रममा त्यो एउटा पार्ट उनीहरू त्यो छ भने, अर्को पार्ट के छ भने सरकारले हामीले के गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ भने नेपालमा इन्भेस्टमेन्ट गर्ने ठाउँ त धेरै छ नि। एनर्जी सेक्टर वान अफ द बिगेस्ट सेक्टर हो। एग्रिकल्चर सेक्टरमै भन्ने हो भने हामी एउटा कृषि प्रधान देश भन्नेमा हामीसँग टेक्नोलोजी नभएको कारणले गर्दाखेरि हामी कति पछि परिरहेका छौँ भने त्यो टेक्नोलोजीको साथसाथमा इन्भेस्टमेन्ट गर्ने चाइनाको इन्भेस्टरहरू आउँछ त्यहाँ। तर प्रब्लम कहाँ छ भने अहिले जुन हामीले सुरेशजीले भनेको जुन कुरा छ, यो कुरालाई बेस गर्दै गर्दाखेरि बेसिकली हामीले लोकल पार्टनर छान्दाखेरि कस्तो लोकल पार्टनर छान्ने, पिपिपी बनाउन जाँदाखेरि कस्तो पार्टनर छान्ने, त्यो पार्टनरले कस्तो रेस्पेक्ट दिने त्यो फरेन इन्भेस्टरलाई, त्यसमा डिपेन्ड गरिरहेछ अहिले। त्यसले गर्दाखेरि मैले अहिले हङकङबाट यो सबै कुराहरू मैले दुईटा इन्भेस्टमेन्ट फोरमलाई इन्भेस्टमेन्ट समिटलाई मैले एटेन्ड गर्दै गर्दाखेरि मैले त्यहाँ देखेको ड्रब्याकलाई हेरेर र गभर्मेन्टको पोलिसीहरू पनि हेर्दै गर्दा एउटा चाहिँ मैले देखेको यो जुन अघि उहाँले के अरे सुरेशजीले भनेको यो क्याप अन रोयल्टी छ, यो क्याप अन रोयल्टी एकदम इम्पोर्टेन्ट छ। हामी कसैले हामीले इन्भेस्टरलाई लिएर आउँदै गर्दा हामीले पार्टली इन्भेस्ट गरेर सँगसँगै लिएर आउने एउटा पार्ट हुन्छ। एउटा नेपालको इन्भेस्टमेन्टको अपर्च्युनिटीलाई हेरेर प्रपोजल लिएर उहाँहरूलाई कन्भिन्स गरेर लिएर आउने अर्को पार्ट हुन्छ। र त्यसको साथसाथमा हामीले त्यो फरेन इन्भेस्टरबाट लिने भन्दा, रोयल्टी लिनुभन्दा नेपाल सरकारले नै हामीले इन्भेस्टमेन्ट ल्याए बापत नेपाल सरकारले नै हामीलाई रोयल्टी दिलायो भने अनि त्यसपछि त्यसको हुन नै त्यसको एकदम पर्सेन्टेज धेरै आउँछ। त्यहाँ मान्छेहरूले इन्भेस्टरहरू ल्याउनको लागि धेरै अगाडि बढ्छ। तर अहिले के भएको छ भने सरकारले त्यो रोयल्टी त्यो भोलिन्टियर त काम गरिरहेछ नेपाली भएको हिसाबले, तर उसलाई बेनिफिटै छैन भने उसले कहाँबाट ल्याउँछ त? किनभने उसले पनि एउटा इन्भेस्टरलाई कन्भिन्स गर्नको लागि नेपाल जस्तो होइन, यहाँ त विदेशमा खाना पिउने ऊ बस दुनियाँदारी गरेर उसलाई चाहिँ वर्षौं दिन ढोकेर हुन्छ कि कसरी हुन्छ, झार खुलाएर हुन्छ कि पानी खुलाएर हुन्छ कि खाना खुलाएर हुन्छ कि कसरी बोलेर हुन्छ कि भेटेर हुन्छ कि कति वर्षौं दिन लगाएर बल्ल 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 एउटा इन्भेस्टर भेट्छ। अनि त्यो इन्भेस्टरलाई आफूले लगानी गरेर अनि भरे नेपालमा ल्याउँदै गर्दा हामीलाई त्यो ल्याउने मान्छेलाई फाइदा के त? इन्करेज के हुने त? के गर्ने त सरकारले भन्दा यही क्याप अन रोयल्टीमा डिपेन्ड गर्छ। यसमा चाहिँ कमसे कम नेपाल सरकारले जसले सर्टेन अमाउन्टदेखि यदि अमाउन्टसम्मको केपिआई बनाएर त्यहाँबाट ल यदि अमाउन्टसम्मको इन्भेस्टमेन्ट ल्यायो भने 80% पायो रोयल्टी स्टार्टिङ फ्रम 5% to 10% म्याक्सिमम गरेर त्यसको भोल्युम बनाएर गर्यो भने यस्तो फरेन इन्भेस्टरहरू धेरै भन्दा धेरै एनआरएनले ल्याउन सक्छ। यो एउटा एनआरएनलाई युज गर्न सक्ने प्लेटफर्म हो। सबै एनआरएनले गर्छ भन्ने कुरा नि छैन। कति देशमा जस्तै कोरियाबाट अस्ति भर्खरै एउटा उदाहरणको लागि हाम्रो म्याग्डीको एकजना भाइले सुजु लिएर आइसक्यो, सुजु उत्पादन गरिसक्यो। अब कस्मेटिक्सको पनि त्यही सुरु गर्दैछ कोरियाले। भने यस्तो इन्भेस्टरहरू चाइनामा बेसिकली चाइनाहरू इन्जिनियरिङ फिल्डमा पनि त्यतिकै छ, टुरिज्म सेक्टरमा पनि त्यतिकै छ, यो एनर्जी सेक्टरमा स्पेसली उनीहरू चाहिँ एकदमै इन्ट्रेस्टेड छ। त्यसले गर्दा उहाँहरूलाई एट्र्याक्ट गर्नको लागि हामीले कस्तो खालको फेसिलिटी दिने गभर्मेन्टले, स्पेसली कहाँ ड्रब्याक भएको छ हाम्रो भन्दा नेपाल सरकारको भन्दा इन्फ्रास्ट्रक्चरमा हाइड्रो छ, कुन ठाउँको एउटा कुनामा छ, त्यो कुनामा भएको हाइड्रो रजिस्टर गरेर राखेको छ, तर त्यो ठाउँमा पुग्नको लागि फेसिलिटी छैन। त्यो खोला मात्रै अकुपाई गर्यो, पिपिए लियो, तर त्यो प्रोजेक्ट सञ्चालन गर्न सक्दैन। किन भन्दा त्यहाँ पुर्याउनसम्मको टेक्नोलोजी गरेर गाडी जानु पर्यो, मटेरियल जानु पर्यो, दुनियाँ पुग्नलाई त त्यहाँ पुग्दैन, किनभने बाटोै छैन। भनेपछि सरकार पक्षले सोच्नुपर्ने जति पनि इन्भेस्टमेन्टको पार्ट छ, एफडिआईको पार्ट छ, एफडिआई भित्राउनु भन्दा पहिला नेपाल सरकारले गर्नुपर्ने भनेको सरकारको पक्षबाट प्लानिङ टिम चाहिँ राम्रो छैन, प्लानिङ इन्जिनियरिङ टिम छैन, त्यहाँ प्लानर छैन नेपालमा। बरु त्यो राम्रो खालको एउटा प्लानर, इन्टरनेसनल प्लानर ल्यायो भने उसले 50 वर्षको प्लान बनाइदिने, 25 वर्षको बनाइदिने, 10 वर्षको बनाइदिने, 5 वर्षको बनाइदिने, त्यो आफ्नो आफ्नो रेन्जको प्लानरहरू हुन्छ इन्टरनेसनल इन्फ्रास्ट्रक्चरको लागि। हो त्यस्तो इन्फ्रास्ट्रक्चर प्लानरलाई हायर गरेर हामीले चाहिँ कसरी त्यो के अरे बिजनेस प्लान बनाएर त्यसपछि बनेको रियल डिपिआरलाई ल्याएर बिजनेस प्लान बनाएर त्यहाँबाट बाहिर ल्याउन सक्यो भने हामीले चाहिँ नेपालमा इन्भेस्ट गर्नु कुनै ठुलो कुरा होइन स्पेसली। अनि अर्को एरिया चाहिँ मैले देखेको नेपालमा हुँदै गर्दा म अहिले 2002 देखि अहिलेसम्मको मेरो अनुभव नेपालमा रिसर्च गर्दै जाँदा म नेपालमा गर्नुपर्छ भन्दै हिँड्दै गर्दाखेरि मैले धेरै ड्रब्याक हुँदै गर्दा पनि राम्रो ठाउँ पनि छ त्यहाँ। कि जस्तो कि सुरेशले भनेको छ अघि त्यो डिपार्टमेन्ट अफ इन्डस्ट्रीले हेर्नुपर्ने कुरा कहाँ छ भन्दाखेरि स्पेसल इकोनोमिक जोन नेपालमा भएको 13वटा स्पेसल इकोनोमिक जोन जुन छ एरिया, त्यो ल्यान्डलाई डेभलप गर्नु किन सक्दैन हामी? म 3-4वटा त्यो 7वटा प्रदेशको म भैरवा गयो, तनहुँ गयो, म त्यो सेज हेर्दै गयो। यो सेजमा जति पनि अहिले युएस र चाइनाको ट्रेड वार हुँदै गर्दा यसको ठुलो एडभान्टेज भनेको हामीले नेपालले लिन सक्छ। कहाँबाट लिन सक्छ भन्दा स्पेसल इकोनोमिक जोनबाट लिन सक्छ। यो स्पेसल इकोनोमिक जोनमा इन्डिया र नेपालको चाइनाको बिचमा कसले धेरै बढी सेजमा चाहिँ इन्भेस्ट गर्न चाहन्छ, इन्डस्ट्रियल स्टेट बनाउन सक्छ, त्यसलाई दिन सक्छ। जसले इन्भेस्ट गर्न आउँछ त्यसलाई दिन सक्छ। हामीले इन्डियालाई मात्रै 1950 को ट्रिटी भयो उनीहरूलाई दिनुपर्छ भन्ने छैन। जो इन्भेस्टर आउँछ, जोसँग टेक्नोलोजी छ, जसले फन्ड लिएर आउँछ त्यसलाई दियो भनेपछि यो क्रममा चाहिँ यो स्पेसल इकोनोमिक जोनलाई मात्रै फोकस गरेर हामीले चाहिँ त्यसलाई चाहिँ क्लस्टर बाई क्लस्टर, मैले चाइनामा मैले अब गनो प्रोभिन्स, सिचुवान प्रोभिन्समा भएको त्यहाँको नगरपालिकाहरूको महानगरपालिका, उपमहानगरपालिका, नगरपालिकाहरूसँग मैले कुराकानी गरेर प्रोभिन्स बाई प्रोभिन्सको त्यहाँ चाहिँ क्लस्टरमा ल्याएर उनीहरूको जुन क्लस्टरमा जुन उत्पादन गरिरहेको छ टेक्नोलोजी छ, त्यो टेक्नोलोजीलाई त्यो एउटा स्पेशल इकोनोमिक जोनमा उनीहरूको क्लस्टर बनाएर डेभलप गर्न दिने भनेर हामीले मैले चाहिँ कति ठाउँमा मैले कन्भिन्स पनि गरिरहेको छु अहिले। तर हाम्रो चाहिँ इन्फ्रास्ट्रक्चर त्यहाँ पुगेको छैन। त्यो इन्फ्रास्ट्रक्चर नपुग्ने क्रममा पनि मैले अब स्टेजको पनि अब पहिलाको सिओहरूसँग म कन्टिन्यू अहिले पनि फलोअप गरिरहेको छु। म गर्दै गर्दाखेरि सेजलाई चाहिँ राम्रोसँग हामीले डेभलप गर्न सक्यो भने म्यानुफ्याक्चरिङ चाइनामा गरेर त्यसको चाहिँ के अरे एसेम्बल त्यो सबै सेजमा गराएर त्यहाँबाट मेड इन नेपाल बनाएर युएस बेच्न पाउँछ। उनीहरूको अहिलेको जुन ट्रेड वार भइरहेछ यो चाइना र युएसको, यसको फाइदा हामीले किन नलिने? लिन सक्नु पर्यो नि त। भनेपछि यस्तो यस्तो कुराहरूलाई चाहिँ रिसर्च गरेर सरकार पक्षबाट होस् कि प्राइभेट सेक्टरले हुन्छ कि यो रिसर्च गरेर हामीलाई चाहिँ थ्रो आउट गर्यो भने हामीले यसलाई प्रमोट गर्न सक्छौँ भने यो सेज त एउटा पार्ट भयो भने अर्को पार्ट भनेको होटल टुरिज्म सेक्टर भनेको चाइनाबाट गर्न सक्ने टुरिज्म भनेको हेभी हुन्छ। होटल व्यवसायमा मात्रै घुसाउन सक्यो भने पनि मोर देन इनफ। अब रिसोर्ट होटल यो जुन होमस्टेमा त्यसको पनि आफ्नो इन्जिनियरिङ तरिकाहरू छ। त्यसलाई चाहिँ नेपाललाई चाहिँ नेपाली भएर चिनाउने। नेपाल उनीहरू इन्भेस्टरहरू नेपालमा आउँदाखेरि म त नेपालमा आएको छु भनेर त्यहाँको आर्किटेक्चरल डिजाइनहरू स्ट्रक्चरल डिजाइनहरू बनाउने आफ्नै तरिका हुन्छ। त्यसले गर्दाखेरि मैले के सल्लाह दिन चाहन्छु, म के भन्न चाहन्छु भने इन्भेस्टमेन्ट गर्ने ठाउँ चाहिँ राम्रो छ। जस्तै हामीले म चाहिँ अब होटल लाइनको इन्भेस्टमेन्टको कुरामा जान चाहन्छु। एउटा होटलमा हामीले एउटा भिल्ला बनाउन लाग्यो, एउटा एरियामा भनौँ पोखरामा एउटा भिल्ला बनायो, अथवा मैले मेग्दीमा अहिले एउटा रिसोर्ट लिइरहेछ। त्यो रिसोर्टमा एउटा नमुनाको लागि टोर्के हिल रिसोर्ट भन्ने छ। त्यसमा चाहिँ हामीले 50वटा भिल्ला बनाउने प्लान गरिरहेछ। त्यो भिल्लालाई हामीले फरेन इन्भेस्टरलाई जति पनि जापानिज यो एल्डरलीहरू छ, कोरियन एल्डरली छ, चाइनिज एल्डरली छ, युरोपियन एल्डरलीहरू छ, उनीहरूको रिटायर लाइफ कहाँ बिताउने, कसरी गर्ने, लग्जरी कसरी बिताउने भन्दाखेरि नेपालमा उनीहरूको चाहिँ लग्जरी हाउस बिताउने भन्दै गर्दा एकजना मान्छेले 1 लाख रुपियाँ 50वटा भिल्लाको लागि वर्षभरिको लागि उनीहरूले चाहिँ एक दिनको 1 लाखको हिसाबले चाहिँ उनीहरूले लगानी गर्छ। उनीहरू अब 365 दिन इन्जोय गर्नलाई कति खर्च गर्छ उनीहरूले? यसको चाहिँ मात्र हेरेर हामीले चाहिँ त्यसलाई चाहिँ प्रमोट गर्न सक्यो भने हामीलाई $1 बिलियन त्यो नेपालको युएसको एमसिसी केही छेउकुनाले त्यो त केही पनि होइन। चाइनाबाट बिआरआईको पैसा मात्रै हामीले यो टुरिज्ममा चाहिँ इन्भेस्ट गर्न सक्यो भने र एयरलाइन्स र यो क्यासिनोमा गर्न सक्यो भने मोर देन इनफ। त्यसले गर्दा नेपालमा साथीहरूले नेपाल सरकारबाट हाम्रो सिडीले नेपालमा बसेर यो रिसर्च र प्लानिङ गर्न सक्यो र हामीलाई त्यो इन्फर्मेसन दिन सक्यो भने मैले हङकङ र चाइनाबाट इन्भेस्टमेन्ट यो टुरिज्म सेक्टर, एनर्जी सेक्टर, इन्डस्ट्रियल सेक्टरमा, सर्भिस सेक्टरमा म चाहिँ ग्यारेन्टीको साथ भन्छु एभ्री इयर म $100 मिलियन म इजिली ल्याउन सक्छु। त्यसले गर्दा म साथीहरूलाई पनि अरू देशको साथीहरूले पनि त्यही गर्न सक्नुहुन्छ होला भन्ने मलाई विश्वास छ। त्यसले गर्दाखेरि अब हाम्रो संस्थाले कसरी यसको लिडिङ ह्यान्ड कसरी गर्ने, गभर्मेन्टसँग कसरी पहल गर्ने, विभिन्न डिपार्टमेन्टसँग अनि विभिन्न प्राइभेट सेक्टरसँग कसरी डिल गर्ने, यो एउटा बनाउने र हामीले पनि एउटा रोयल्टी बनाउनु पर्यो। संस्थालाई पनि बचाउनु लागि फेरि त्यही इन्भेस्टमेन्टबाट इन्भेस्टरलाई हामीले ल्याउँदै गर्दा हामीले संस्थालाई पनि एटलिस्ट 1% त्यहाँबाट 5% अथवा 5% पाउँदा 0.5% को हिसाबले रोयल्टी दिने, 10% पायो 1% रोयल्टी दिने गर्यो भने यो संस्था हाम्रो पनि बलियो पनि हुन्छ। अनि हामीले धेरै स्टाफहरू पनि हामीले हायर गरेर, प्रोफेसनलहरू हायर गरेर हामीले चाहिँ नेपालमा एफडीआई लाई एन्करेज गर्न सकिन्छ। सुन्नु भएको छैन? हजुर,
Thank you so much, sir. So we are a bit short of time, त्यही भएर।
हजुर ल मैले हैन, दिस इज एन्ड अफ माइ प्रेजेन्टेसन।
Thank you, sir. Now, may I introduce our next panelist, Professor Dr. Gandhi Pandit, Senior Advocate, Corporate and Commercial Lawyer. Professor Dr. Gandhi Pandit, Professor of Law Emeritus Senior Advocate of the Supreme Court of Nepal. Professor Pandit holds a PhD in law, Faculty of Law of Tribhuvan University, Masters of Law LM from Columbia University, New York, USA, and Masters of Comparative Law MCL, Law Faculty, University of Delhi, India. Currently, he holds the position of Professor of Commercial Law at Nepal Law Campus, Tribhuvan University. Chairman of Commercial Law Subject Committee, Executive Member, Law Faculty Board, Faculty of Law, Tribhuvan University. Professor Pandit is a senior advocate of Supreme Court of Nepal, founding partner and chairman of Gandhi and Associates, a corporate law firm. He is involved in several social and professional organizations in various capacities, traveled extensively all around the world, and contributed several important articles in the journals. Moreover, he had several publications on legal matters, commercial arbitration, and mediation. Professor Pandit attended the sixth Legal Committee meeting of the 46th session of General Assembly of the United Nations, New York, September 1991, and many more international conferences. He was also a delegate to the Conference of Socialist International of Nepali delegation led by former Prime Minister Sushil Koirala of Nepal. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mohanji, for inviting me in this program and also is giving an opportunity to meet all of friend and expert and very learned person in this Zoom meeting. So after hearing from two speaker, I feel that I have to learn more. The way they have presented the issues, I feel that there's not much that I can talk about. Nevertheless, since I have been given an opportunity to talk and taking into account the time that we have left, so I will not take more than 15 minutes on that issue. And the today's talk is about investment in Nepal, prospect, opportunity, and challenges. When you are talking about prospect and challenges, this is the true connotation that is very important. Opportunity, yes, we do have a lot of opportunity. Not because that we have made a good law or good environment or good the policy that we have opportunity good opportunity for investing in Nepal. The reason of good opportunity for investment is naturally, geographically, we are in such a situation that investment in like tourism and hydro and some other area is a very promising area that investment or a foreign investment would be interested in making investment. But every country are trying to draw the attention and money from other country to bring foreign currency in their country and trying to invest that foreign currency for the production, for the infrastructure development, and for tourism development and blah, blah, blah. But Nepal is one of the country among the global village where every country is asking for foreign investment. Now, a foreign investor has an opportunity to make investment looking at the country's legal situation, economic situation, political situation, geopolitical situation. So that it means that, in other words, there is a huge competition in inviting the foreign investor. You know that in China is one of the biggest industrial nation in the world, but you know the investment from USA and European countries is so huge and big, and they were very smart in utilizing foreign investment capital, which helped them to bring knowledge, expertise, and production, so that they are one of the best producer of the various goods, and they are exporting and making investment in other country. So when you are talking about, I'm not going to talk a lot about it since other person has already explained in detail about what is the process, what is the way of making investment, what are the requirements for making investment. I would like to draw few issues for your draw your attention for one of the some issue about let's say what is the investment. There are some or law, even though we are seeking to get a lot of investment in Nepal, but our legal system is not that helpful in bringing foreign investment. First of all, when you are talking about foreign investment, we are just think that only capital money coming into Nepal. The investment of in equity, in the form of equity that we are just looking at. What we are missing is that loan investment. Loan investment for the project is not considered as equity investment. And foreign investment is allowed in equity investment. And for that equity investment, all of the facilities, all of the protection is given. Whereas when you are talking about a loan investment, that kind of protection is not given, because loan investment is not considered as foreign investment, because the definition of the foreign investment in foreign investment at Nepal does not consist of the lending of the money from third country. Similarly, to my the one area that when somebody is bringing the money, you can bring the money as equity as a foreign investment, and you also can bring a loan from foreign country. But when you are repatriating that money, there is a certain problem, because investment law of Nepal does not clearly talks a clear picture of repatriation from the loan and the interest accrued therefrom. That there are some lacunas. Similarly, when loan is not coming, only equity is coming, it means that then investment in infrastructure and big billion-dollar project is not possible, because in every big infrastructure project, equity ratio would be 30%, 20 to 30%, whereas the loan would be 70%. If we are looking, what kind of investment we're looking, that we have to discuss on that. What kind of investment? Are you trying to looking for an investment in that, like restaurant, like supermarket, like some kind of area where you don't need huge money? It is a kind of trade, or more focus of investment law. If you look from bigger perspective or bigger pictures, what you find that our law is more focused only on limited type of investment. But they are not looking at, for example, let's say one fast track road. For example, if we want to make a fast track road, maybe it is 40 or 2 billion or $3 billion or $1 billion, let's say. When you are talking about $1 billion infrastructure project and you want to have foreign investment in there, how you do that? Has our law focus on that area? How is our law very favorable to that kind of investment? No, because as per the law of Nepal, you are more focused on equity investment. It means that $1 billion you have to bring the money. Who will invest $1 billion cash in a project? In mega project, only the financial institution will put more money. So then we are talking about project financing. I know project financing from big financial institution or bank or other entity. Are we ready to receive that kind of project financing? I'm not an economist since I'm the lawyer, but what I do know that in bigger type of mega project, the investment, when you are making the investment, there are two types of financing. One, recourse financing, non-recourse financing. In recourse financing, the investor, the shareholder will be fully accountable for the non-payment of the loan. For example, in recourse financing, when you are doubling the project, the lender is not more focused on the prospect of that project which would draw the money from that project. They are not more concerned. They are concerned about what kind of the money or what kind of security they are getting. Immovable property, personal guarantee, some kind of security of their investment is sought for. Well, then, if you want to develop a $1 billion project, nobody is going to go for non-recourse recourse financing. The only way to look at is recourse financing. Means the lender agency will not look into the capacity of individual investor or his collateral. Rather, the entity investing entity would be looking at the prospect of receiving the money from that project, how viable that project is. Nepalese law do not recognize non-recourse financing. Our whole policy based on recourse financing. So then when you are talking about recourse financing, none of the foreign investor will come in Nepal to bring big money, because when they bring the money, how to repatriate that money? When you are to look at the repatriation, only the equity financing is easily repatriatable, whereas loan interest is more cumbersome. Similarly, when you make an equity investment, all other kind of protection and facilities available in or under our investment law, whereas in loan investment, that kind of facility is not available. Then a project, a mega project in which the portion of project financing, financial is bigger 70%, and equity financing will be 30%, and our law is more focused on protecting 30% equity holder, at the interest of the 30% equity lender, not the 70% project lender. So this is the one of the area, because there are many areas where we can talk, and the time goes on hours and hours. Since I have a very limited time of maybe 5 minutes, I will not go in detail on that. Let's say one of the thing I want to talk about is that this why Nepali investment is not growing so fast lately. Right now, one gentleman from Department of Industry saw that from China, we have a 50% of investor recently is in China, from China. You know why? The China, when they make a big investment in hydro, that time, hydro was one of the very promising area from two perspectives. One was that internal consumption was needed. We have a lack of electricity, so that they invested in small type hydro project. And they also invested in a bigger size hydro project. A lot of Chinese companies were coming in Nepal in making investment in hydro and infrastructure. But when India made a policy that there will be, because any additional electricity that we produce in Nepal will have to be exported in India. This is the only viable country that where we can export our electricity. But India made a policy that India will be buying electricity from Nepal, from those companies in which India has a investment. Now, the moment that policy was stipulated or declared 3 years before, none of the Chinese companies has started coming in here, because China know that domestic consumption by domestic producer, that demand can be met. But whereas when it comes to exporting, then it is not possible, because the other reason that the Chinese are also not coming in future, near future, is that India is not doing any PPA. Take or pay basis. Take and pay basis and take or pay basis is different. What that means that now NEA is only signing PPA, power purchase agreement, with Indian Chinese company or any third investment country, saying that we'll buy the electricity from you when we need it. If we don't need, we don't pay you. Then we will come to invest in a bigger hydro project. Now, when you are talking about investment prospect and challenges, the bigger challenge is that how to maintain a good relation with India, so that India would be agreeing to buy our electricity produced from a project or a hydro project which has been financed by Chinese and other countries. If we can make that kind of relation with China through with India, then we can also export that electricity to Bangladesh, which need 15,000 megawatt a year. But without agreeing, without using the land of India, we cannot make a transmission line from Nepal to Bangladesh. This is the one challenge. Second challenge that we have to, this is thing we have to look into when we are talking about investment. For example, anything that in investment, now we have to have the BOT type public-private partnership that we have to develop it. In order to do, we have the law for public-private partnership like a road, toll road, and other kind of bigger hotels and other kind of bigger project where foreign investors can come as a participate in public-private partnership model in which the land and other kind of facility will be provided by the government on lease basis, and the foreign investor will put the money. In order to develop the public-private partnership through the foreign investment, then we have to allow a law, very liberal law, legal rules that will give a very ample room for the foreign investors like banker, financial institution, where they can bring in here the law, they can money, they can invest in the various projects, and there should be a very clear law. In case our company fails to develop that country, they can take over that company and give it to others. If that happens, our law is so traditional, so incompatible with international practices that none of the foreign investor would ever come to make an investment in that. And that area our government is not focusing on, our government is not looking at, even though we have a recently make a new law. 3 years before, we have a old Foreign Investment Act, but we make a changes, but change was very minimal because we are not ready to accommodate the need of the foreign investor. Having said so, lastly, let me, I know that I was looking at the face and looking at the time. Last is political consistency. Unless and until we have a political consistent policy, consistent policy of the government for investment, no investor will come in. I will give one example. 3 years before, Nepal signed an agreement with 3 gorges to develop a hydro, the Budi Gandaki reservoir project. And they were negotiating, they have a MOU. After government was changed, new government came in, immediately terminated the agreement. So what will happen? If that happens, a bigger investor will be scared of the inconsistent policy of Nepal. They do not trust in Nepal. Like in MCC also, what happened? We signed the agreement. Then after 3 years, we have a huge and big cry. Somebody said we should not take it. We have signed a bad agreement. We have blah, blah, blah. What happened? Ultimately, the parliament has approved that thing. That has also given very bad impressions to foreign investors, saying that Nepal is not trustworthy country. First, there is one saying that in Nepal, whatever document you will bring, you will sign first. After signature, you start negotiating. Whereas in foreign country, any document you sign before signing, you make a negotiation, you do the bargain. Once deal is over, you sign it and deal is over. Having said so, I hope that in future we'll look into that issue since we don't have much time. And thank you very much. I guess I took 5 minutes more. Thank you. Anything, if you have any question, I will be ready to answer on that. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you so much, sir. May I now introduce our next panelist, Mr. Bijay Paudel, President of Federation of Canada-Nepal Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Paudel is a Nepalese Canadian entrepreneur, philanthropist, and social activist, currently serving as a founder president of Federation of Canada-Nepal Chamber of Commerce. He is a founder and CEO of PB Group of companies working in the diverse sector, including recruitment, investment, agri-farm, IT, and export-import, operating in the provinces of British Columbia and Ontario. With his and his team's hard work for last 8 years, his company is quickly expanding in other provinces of Canada. He is also a founder and chairman of Canadian Nepalese Foundation, which serves in the area of education, entrepreneurship, and governance. He was awarded a Responsible Citizen Award by provincial government for his active involvement in the community during COVID-19. He was an immediate past vice president of NRNA Canada and is a life member of various community organizations. Mr. Bijay is also a member of Rotary Club, Mississauga, Malton. He is actively involved in various food banks, community cleanup, and other charity work in Nepal and Canada. Mr. Powdell is actively involved in Canadian federal politics, promoting and inspiring Canadian Nepalese diaspora and various other communities. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Namaste, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm recently in Mississauga, Toronto, Canada. So I would like to especially thank you, Program Chair and Founder President of Center of Diplomacy and Development, and the former Ambassador to France, Mr. Mohan Krishna Shrestha, and the distinguished panelist, Mr. Suresh Shrestha, Director of FDI Division, Mr. Prakash Poon, Chairman, Hong Kong Nepal Chamber of Commerce, Senior Advocate Professor Dr. Gandhi Pandit, and all the director and moderator of this program and attendees. It is indeed a pleasure to attend this program, this webinar, and I would like to thank you for allowing me to present my thoughts on behalf of Federation of Canada-Nepal Chamber of Commerce. And I feel really honored to be speaking in front of you all, and in front of much more qualified and experienced fellow panelists. And a lot of things have been already covered by Mr. Suresh Shrestha, Prakash Poon, and Dr. Gandhi as well. So I'd like to quickly go through the foreign direct investment in Nepal, its challenges and the opportunities. So basically, FDI, it introduces the new capital, technology, and entrepreneurship into the developing economies like Nepal. And foreign investment is inevitable in the present context. And this is the phenomenon of the globalization as well. And the government should focus on keep developing basically the infrastructure like the transports and roads facilities. It helps to fulfill the gap of investment and boost the economy strongly. So Nepal also needs to make pragmatic policies and implement other reforms to attract big investment. And Nepal, as we know, it's aiming to become a middle income country by 2030 as per the to achieve the sustainable development goals. But the current level of investment is not enough for the country to reach the middle income stage from the current low income status as targeted according to a World Bank report. So Nepal should create a proper ecosystem for FDI to promote trade and investment. So capital inflow in the country has seen an upward trend, but it still lags behind most South Asian countries not being able to attract more FDI. So attracting FDI is vital to the growth, prosperity, resilience of Nepal's cities, provinces, and industries, and the overall economy of Nepal, promoting Nepal's strength as an investment destination. So FDI creates employment opportunities, raise domestic wages, increase economic growth as well. So there are so many various factors that that makes Nepal as an attractive place to invest. So that includes proximity towards economic power, China, two major power, China and India, and that provides Nepal at a better position to attract FDI from its neighbor. And the next one I would say is the young and educated labor force and young population with optimal supply of labor at affordable cost. That is another advantage for the foreign investor in Nepal, and the geographical diversity within the short distance of 193 kilometers. We have a lot of diverse environment, and along with that, as our panelist Suresh Shrestha has also already mentioned, like Nepal as it's working on the on to attract FDI on various policies, reforms, and stuff. It has also liberalized its economic policy since 1990 through agreements with World Trade Organization, BIMSTEC, Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation, SAFTA, South Asian Free Trade Area, as well as policies such as the appropriate trade policy and new industrial policy. And also there is a Foreign Investment and Technology Act, FITA. And we have now the FDI does not need no longer requires the approval from central bank for once it's approved. So the duplication process, approval process has been revised, and the repatriation of dividends has been revised as well. So there is a lot of work going on, but still there are lots of things that has to be improved. I'll come into that part later. So promotion of FDI involves many stakeholders, including government and private sector across Nepal in FDI ecosystem. So number of stakeholders, including federal, provincial, and municipal level, plays a critical role in attracting FDI and maintaining long-term relationship with the investors. Also, one-door policy for foreign investment with the formation of IBN to attract FDI is a one-window solution, has helped to some extent. But I would say there has to be a role of each and every individual stakeholder, including municipal, provincial, federal government, and the private sector to attract to more investors in Nepal. And besides that, the diplomatic mission abroad has to be more proactive to promote economic diplomacy, and the Chamber of Commerce in different countries can play a significant role in promoting FDI in Nepal. So since its formation of Federation of Canada Nepal Chamber of Commerce, we have been able to be interacting with the ambassador, His Excellency Brigu Dungana of Nepal in Ottawa, and Canadian provincial, federal, and municipal level to work together for a business promotion in Nepal and Canada. So FCNCC also planning to organize a trade mission to Nepal very soon, with Canadian businesses, entrepreneurs, and investors willing to invest in Nepal, along with the parliamentarians. And Canada established its diplomatic relation with Nepal in 1965, and it is very exciting to see the long-lasting relationship between Canada and Nepal for last 57 years. And there has been people-to-people ties between Canadian and Nepalese that has grown as a Nepalese diaspora in Canada that continue to grow. And there are so many, there are active Canadian companies in Nepal. And however, the trade between Nepal and Canada is very low compared to other countries. So it's increasing, and there is a significant growth potential. So as of July, I have this is the data from July 2020. So rupees 3.3 billion FDI was received from Canada to Nepal, which is invested to 47 different companies, and they have generated at least 2,478 jobs. Regardless of the distance, number of tourists visiting Nepal from Canada has always been on the rise. So there are high potential to promote Nepal as a favorable tourist destination in Canada. So according to global ranking for ease of doing business, I think one of our panelists has already highlighted this. So doing business in Canada is ranked number 23, whereas Nepal is ranked in 94. So a lot of improvement in policy and implementation is required to promote FDI in Nepal. So it's like a ongoing process. We keep improving every day. It's not going to happen overnight. And so we have to be consistently revising our policies in terms of attracting the FDI. So Nepal is currently a net importer of agriculture products. agriculture products, and it has now open, if I'm not wrong, it has now open for agriculture sector for FDI as well. And using FDI to promote agriculture sector by using innovative technology and artificial intelligence could lead Nepal in agriculture sector in next couple of years. And I would like to cite one example from Canada, because there is a world's largest rooftop greenhouse in Quebec, Canada, that's called Lufa Farm, which produces about 25,000 pounds per week of tomatoes, eggplants, and other organic vegetables all year round, despite chilly Canadian winter weather here in Canada. So Nepal can take advantage of this technology and feed the highly densely populated area with fresh organic vegetable closer to major population in Kathmandu. So what I'm trying to say is like there are a lot of potential in agriculture sector, but the FDI has to be focused in terms of introducing the technology in the agriculture sector. So there are a couple of other investment opportunities in Nepal where the FDI can be focused for the foreign investor, like in tourism, as I mentioned, because tourism sector contributes at least 8% of the Nepal's GDP. So there are other various sectors like our, I think, our president from Hong Kong, yeah, he was also mentioning about the restaurant and airlines and hotels, research and travel agencies business that can foster in Nepal. And another thing I would like to highlight is about the medical tourism that gradually increasing because of the expertise that Nepal has developed in eye surgery. And FDI in medical tourism could be another potential sector. And FDI in hydropower, that all of us know pretty well, that has the potential to harness about 80,000 megawatts of hydropower, of which less than 1,000 megawatt is produced so far. So another potential areas could be the outsourcing from Canadian companies, especially in IT sector, and basically the programming and software development and all that kind of stuff. The foreign company can take that advantage because of the cheap labor available in Nepal. And areas of mutual interest for Canada and Nepal could be in the areas of urban development and mining, hydropower infrastructure and clean technology, power and energy equipment and services, wastewater management and technologies, irrigation equipment and engineering, infrastructure, transportation, especially aircraft and parts, and telecommunication equipment. So during Nepal Investment Summit in 2019, there was an agreement between the Chaudhary Group. I think Chaudhary Group signed an investment agreement with Sky Power Canada for 600 megawatt solar project. And that was one of the important milestone between Canada and Nepal recently. And there are so many barriers, as I see the challenges to FDI, and which is other panelists has already mentioned about it. It's the political instability, labor unrest, bureaucratic hurdles, and these are the main challenges of DI. So Nepal needs political stability and security along with a stable legal and regulatory environment. So, however, it has been constantly revised. The policies has been revised. Still, there is a problem with the repatriation of dividend and multiple FDI approval process, and also during this COVID, like the FDI has fallen to at least the 40% due to pandemic now, and another important factor I would like to mention is about we are all talking about the inward FDI to Nepal. So I would also like to mention here about the outward FDI that is going out of the country and which has not been mentioned in the policy level, which is happening anyways, but that has not been recognized by the country in terms of policy. So Nepal can do that as well, because the studies has shown that that the companies that are investing outside the Nepal, like in the foreign countries, they once they generate the huge capital, they also invest in the research and development and building assets and the building infrastructure in the home country as well. So that could be the another part to be looked at. Yeah, so another points I'd like to add here is like Suresh Srestha also mentioned about the double tax avoidable agreement, but to be honest, like there is no DTAA agreement between Canada and Nepal, so that has to be another factor to be looked at. And there are, I would like to, at the end, I would like to highlight a couple of suggestions here and conclude my remarks. So Nepal should emphasize on startup and FDI. It's key for unicorn startup. So Nepal should start a startup summit where people can showcase their innovative ideas and attract investors to fund the startup from inside and outside the country. So proper incubation and acceleration center is required in Nepal, and 1/3 of Nepal's economy is largely based on agriculture, as I already mentioned. So there are lots of opportunities for agri-tech startup. So tourism is a major part of Nepal's economy, and we could integrate the tourism sector with technology using virtual tourism of heritage site, virtual reality, and implementing tech for tourism business. And there are a lot to collaborate between Canada and Nepal. So how we create a venture capital infrastructure and environment for attracting angel investor plays a significant role for the FDI, for getting foreign investor in Nepal. So business in Canada and Nepal should be more proactive. So there are both visible and invisible trade between Canada and Nepal. And the recent FDI realization shows that there is a huge gap between FDI and approval and actual FDI inflow in Nepal. So there is a huge time gap between approval and actual investment that has already been discussed as well. So with these remarks, I'd like to conclude my views here and thank you for having me, and wish you all the best for the successful completion of this webinar. Thank you, Srishti. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, sir. Now we are moving towards the second half of the webinar. So the floor is open for questions. We will take a few questions directed to the panelists. All the participants' mic will be muted, so the question should be put forward in the Zoom chat box or in the comment section of the Facebook Live. So I think we have a question from Bhupendra Gurungji. So this question is directed to all our panelists. Doing Business Index 94 ranking now, why don't we consider #1 index in the world? Suresh sir, you can just answer this question. I think this is directed to you. So you are muted.
So that was a significant improvement that we have come across. We improved by 16, I guess it was 16. We used to be like 114 or something, and improved, and we came up to 94th. And as we set up, conducive environment for foreign investment, and if we improve the polity, and if we bring about policy reforms and the procedural ease then we will obviously move forward and attain better position and better rank. And that's a very that's an aspiration that we have, and that is very good. But it's very ambitious to be number one, because we have a lot of disadvantages, and the investors will obviously look at the comparative advantages that different countries have, and the countries which have more comparative advantage will definitely stand ahead of us.
Can I add something? What is
Sure.
I think that whenever you are asking about why we cannot be one or maybe five among 10 or top 10, it is $1 million question, in a sense that a country like Nepal, when we are just where we are focusing, where our investment, we are trying to draw our investment, it is very important. And on top of that, as I said to you, the important aspect of any person coming to Nepal for investment, or especially bigger investment, regulatory regime and non-corruption situation is very important. And due to the corruption and unaccountable bureaucracy is a major hurdles for the investment. There are many other things, but because the corruption is too high, I would say. And without money, nothing moves in the file, because in my law firm, we have been handling $7 billion project up to now, and we know where the pain lies. But it doesn't mean that all are corrupt in our bureaucracy. But some kind of accountability, some kind of consistency policy, a legal regime had to be still improved, and we have to open up our mind. We have to come out of box, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I would like to invite Dr. Mitrabandhu Paudel, Vice President of CDD and Principal of LACM, for summing up this webinar.
Thank you. Thank you, Srishti. Thank you all the distinguished panelists. First of all, I would like to acknowledge the presence of our chair, Ambassador Mohan Krishna Shrestha, who is also the president of CDD, and all the distinguished panelists. Let me quickly recap what our distinguished panelists explain in this webinar, FDI in Nepal, challenges and prospects. Starting with Ambassador Shrestha, he shed light on the significance of FDI in countries' development. And our first speaker, Mr. Suresh Shrestha, Director, FDI Division, Department of Industry, gave a brief status of, the FDI. The service sector is number one, that is followed by tourism. And while country-wise status in terms of FDI, China stands 50%, whereas India 25%, and remaining countries 25%. And he also highlighted the overview of investing process that does not seem to be complicated, and also highlighted why Nepal could be a good place for investment. He gave some tips such as strategic location, land ownership by the company, cheap cost of labor, simplified repatriation process, and Nepal's stance, let's say 94th position in doing business index, according to World Bank report, out of 190. So that is also one of the lucrative, reason. And one-stop service center are major prospects for FDI. And Mr. Shrestha similarly had presented some, pertinent issues of FDI in Nepal, and it would be much appreciated if the issues raised by Mr. Shrestha, can be taken into consideration in terms of addressing, that would be very much benefited for our country. And our second speaker, Mr. Prakash Pun, Chairman, Hong Kong Nepal Chamber of Commerce, gave kind of situation, and he really, highlighted the disparity between promises and the reality, political instability, and the weaknesses in research and planning, and proper dissemination of information, lack of proper dissemination of information are some of the issues he highlighted. And also foreign investors are being misled by the local partners was his another statement. And it is time to revisit our Procurement Act, also one of the important point he raised. And he also highlighted major issues such as cap on royalty and infrastructure development, an international planner for infrastructure development is required, and a special economic zone says to be developed for the manufacturing industries. And also there should be hospitality and tourism development, showing our indigenous culture and tradition. So, and he highlighted the initiatives he has taken in Magdi. And another speakers, Professor Dr. Gandhi Pandit, talk about the legal system, which is not receptive to welcome FDI in Nepal, and we are missing loan in investment, and there is not clarity on repatriation in existing law, and also our law is focusing to safeguard the equity finance, but not for loan finance. That's the takeaway from Dr. Pandit, and he gave the example of how big investors feel uncomfortable to invest based on the recent provision of India's policy in electricity. And our law is not compatible with the international law in terms of attracting foreign investors. And only consistent policy create trustworthiness environment. That's the major takeaway from Dr. Pandit. And Vijay Paudel, President Federation of Canada Nepal Chamber of Commerce, Toronto, he talked about he gave some suggestions to the government. Government should focus on transport, road services, and infrastructure development, and needs to make pragmatic policies. And current, this situation is not that encouraging, and government should also create proper ecosystem. Capital inflow is not encouraging, and better position due to proximity of India and China. That is our strategic advantage, to attract the FDI. And another positive aspect is geographical, diversity, and policy reforms such as like the membership of WTO, BIMSTEC, SAFTA, and some. These are some good signs, and still there is room for improvement. And he also highlighted that the diplomatic mission can play a significant role to attract FDI. And with a positive note, he said introduce of AI in agriculture will help Nepal, a prosperous country. And another part he mentioned was about the medical tourism. That can be another potential sector to attract FDI in Nepal. And also Canada, Nepal can both benefit from urban development, mining, waste management, water management, infrastructure, aircraft, etc. And finally, he, highlighted all these things from entrepreneurial perspective as well. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much. Over to you, Srishti.
Thank you so much, sir. Now may I invite Ms. Santi Lakshmi Shakya, promoter and executive member of CDD, to deliver her vote of thanks.
So, thank you, Srishti. Dear Mohan sir, founder president of CDD, distinguished panelists, dear audience, home and abroad, friends, ladies and gentlemen, good evening, good morning, and namaste. Today is International Women's Day. First of all, I would like to salute and appreciate you all. I'm indeed very happy that Center for Diplomacy and Development has taken this initiatives to host a webinar on very important issues of foreign direct investment in Nepal, challenge and prospects. As all of you are aware that CDD, since its establishment, has remained effortful to host seminars in the past and host of webinars even during COVID-19 pandemics. Our efforts are aimed to sensitize the people about important international issues. We wish to assure you that CDD will make even more efforts in coming days to as per its about objectives. Today, we have listened eloquent presentations made by our distinguished panelists on the subjects. As a developing country, Nepal cannot meet her capital and technology needs by domestically. We therefore need foreign direct investment from friendly countries. Due to Nepal's international prestige and congenial atmosphere in the country, we have everything conducive for FDI import in great figures. But in reality, it is not happening so. So despite the implementation of economic diplomacy since last 2 decades and a half, and FDI being a top priority, it has not come to our country as per our desire. Several snacks afflicts its procedures, as our distinguished panelists have pointed out. We need to facilitate and promote more congenial atmosphere and attitudes for luring FDI into our country. Foreign investors, as well all know, go to country where they are welcome with folded hands. Even several countries in our Asian region has made tremendous progress economically through FDI financial resources. We too can do the same. We must work honestly in this regard. Gladly to note, our policies are good, but these must be supported by equally good implementation here. I hope with increment in FDI import in coming days, we can make strides in economic and industrial development. I wish to thank our audience, especially thanks to our honorable panelists and others who are involved in this hosting this seminar. With your kind cooperation and enthusiastic participation, our webinar has been a successful one today also. Thank you so much. Thank you once again. Srishti, over to you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Happy Women's Day to you as well. So as we are at the end of the webinar, I would like to thank all our panelists as well as our active participants. It was a pleasure to have you all with us today. So this concludes the webinar. Thank you all for attending. We hope you have learned and enjoyed this webinar. I wish you all a wonderful evening. With this note, I would like to end today's webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Have a good night.
Especially happy to see Gandhi sir.
Thank you so much, everyone, and
Yeah,
giving us opportunity to share our experiences. Yeah, we'll work together with the CDD anyway.
definitely, definitely, sir. We look forward to working with you all.
Let's make CDD strong first, our organization, to lead the things in Nepal.
Yeah.
We have to find some sponsors as well.
So,
That is also
मैले छुटो कुरा चाहिँ बोलेको छु है त बट पोलिसी रिजनको लागि छुटो कुरा बोल्नु पनि पर्छ राम्रोको लागि हो कि हैन
होइन एकदम
होइन एकदम ठिक छ सर
ठिक छ।
मैले मेरो भोगेको कुरा भनिरहेको छु म इन्भेस्टमेन्ट जसले पनि माग्छ कि जसले पनि खोजेको छ बट वाइ सम आर गेटिङ मोर एन्ड नट अदर्स
Definitely.
एनिवे आजको मिटिङ धेरै राम्रो भयो थ्याङ्क यू आई एम लिभिङ नाउ
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mohanji.
यस्तो बारेमा कहीँ है थ्याङ्क यू सर सबैलाई नमस्ते
Namaste. Namaste. Good night. See you soon.